Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about something that touches the very core of our lives, something we all face, struggle with, and yet often overlook. It is the battle within ourselves against anger, frustration, and the unsettling feeling that someone or something has gotten to us. I want to share with you the secret to achieving emotional mastery in a world that constantly tries to provoke us. I want to reveal the key to living in peace, unaffected by the actions of others, so that no matter what life throws at you, no matter how people treat you, you can stand unshaken, unbothered, and undisturbed. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It surges through us like a storm, often leaving us feeling overwhelmed, out of control, and at the mercy of something or someone else. But the truth is, no one has the power to make you angry except for you. You may think that someone cutting you off in traffic or making a hurtful comment is the cause of your anger. But in reality, it's your reaction to that event, not the event itself, that triggers your emotional response. Take a moment and think about the last time you got angry. What caused it? Was it someone else's actions, or was it how you interpreted those actions? If someone cuts you off while driving, for example, your immediate response might be anger, but only because you've interpreted their behavior as disrespectful. You might feel that they've wronged you or disrespected your space on the road. But here's the key. This feeling of anger doesn't come from them. It comes from your own judgment, your expectations, and how you've chosen to interpret what they did. Think of it like this. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you step on a branch that snaps loudly. It could make you jump in surprise. But if you were expecting the branch to break, you wouldn't be startled. Your response would be different because your mental framework had already prepared you for that possibility. In the same way, you can prepare yourself for how to respond when others act in ways that could upset you. If you don't interpret their actions as a personal attack, anger won't take root in your heart. In fact, every time you get angry, you are essentially giving away your power. You are allowing someone else to dictate your emotional state. Think about it. When you allow someone else's behavior to upset you, you are surrendering your peace. You are handing over control of your emotional well-being to someone who probably doesn't even know or care about the power they hold over you. This is the heart of why it's so important to recognize that no one can make you angry. Your emotions are in your hands. There's an old saying, when you point a finger at someone, remember that 3 fingers are pointing back at you. What this means is that our reactions often say more about our internal state than the person or situation we're reacting to. If you find yourself consistently angry, it might be a reflection of how you view the world, not just how others behave. Our anger is often a mirror, revealing things within us that we haven't yet healed or addressed. The key is to understand that anger doesn't solve anything. It doesn't change the other person's behavior or actions. It only serves to disrupt your own peace. The moment you realize that, you gain back control over your life. The difference between reacting and responding is profound. Reactions are automatic. They come from a place of instinct, driven by emotion. When you react, you allow the situation to control you, and the emotions dictate your actions. But when you respond, you take a moment to pause and think. You reflect, you evaluate, and you decide how you want to act, rather than letting your emotions hijack your behavior. Let's consider a real-life example. Think about the last time you were insulted or criticized. What did you do? Did you immediately feel defensive, angry, or hurt? That's a reaction. It's an automatic emotional response to a perceived threat. But now, imagine if, instead of reacting in that moment, you paused. You took a deep breath, evaluated the situation, and then responded calmly. Maybe you chose not to engage with the negativity at all. Or perhaps you responded with compassion or understanding, recognizing that the other person's words said more about them than about you. In doing so, you wouldn't just avoid unnecessary conflict, you would also protect your emotional well-being. Reactions often come from a place of insecurity. When we are insecure about ourselves, we feel threatened by what others do or say. We feel the need to defend ourselves, to protect our image, to prove that we are right. But when we respond from a place of strength. We are secure in who we are. And we don't need to justify ourselves in the face of criticism. Think of a time when you've seen a peaceful person in a stressful situation, someone who stays calm when everyone else is losing their temper. They aren't ignoring their emotions, but they've learned to control them. They've mastered the art of response. For instance, in a heated argument, they might calmly state, "I see that you're upset, but let's talk about this when we're both calm." Instead of reacting with anger, they choose to disengage from the emotional chaos, creating space for rational dialogue. This ability to respond rather than react is crucial to maintaining emotional control. It doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you choose when and how to express them. You recognize that not every situation requires a quick emotional outburst. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence. Sometimes the most powerful response is walking away. Sometimes the most powerful response is choosing not to respond at all. Imagine how much energy you would save if you didn't give in to every little provocation. How much less stress would you feel if you could walk through life responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively? This is not to say that we should bottle up our emotions or avoid confrontation altogether. It's about knowing that you have the power to control your emotional state and deciding to exercise that power wisely. You don't have to engage in every argument, every disagreement, or every moment of frustration. Choose when it's worth your time, your energy, and your peace. In the workplace, for example, how many times have we witnessed someone explode in anger after receiving negative feedback or criticism? Their reaction is rooted in insecurity, and their response only worsens the situation. Contrast that with someone who, instead of reacting defensively, listens calmly, asks questions to understand better, and seeks constructive solutions. This person doesn't let their emotions govern their actions. They understand that a wise response always leads to a better outcome. The difference between reacting and responding can make or break your relationships, your career, and your personal peace. In moments of tension, take a deep breath, step back, and ask yourself, how do I want to handle this? Your response will not only determine the course of that situation, but it will also determine the quality of your life. One of the root causes of anger and frustration is our tendency to place unrealistic expectations on people, situations, and even ourselves. We expect others to treat us in a certain way, to meet our standards, and to behave in a way that makes us comfortable. But when those expectations aren't met, we find ourselves disappointed, hurt, or angry. The truth is, expectations often set us up for disappointment because life is unpredictable and people will not always behave the way we hope or wish they would. Think about the last time you felt angry or upset with someone. Was there an expectation at the core of that emotion? Perhaps you expected your partner to remember your anniversary, your friend to call you back, or your boss to acknowledge your hard work. When these expectations are not fulfilled, we feel hurt, angry, and betrayed, even though the other person may not have even been aware of our unspoken demand. We have to realize that expectations are a form of control. When we expect something from someone, we are hoping to control their behavior to meet our needs. But the moment we expect something from another person, we give away our peace. People are not obligated to meet our standards, and they're certainly not obligated to meet the standards we set for them. The problem arises when we create an emotional attachment to the idea that someone should act or behave in a certain way, and when they don't, we take it personally. Here's a simple example. A mother might expect her child to behave in a certain way at a family gathering, sitting still, speaking politely, and being well-mannered. But children are children. They are spontaneous, energetic, and sometimes unpredictable. When the child doesn't meet the mother's expectations, she might become frustrated and angry. But that anger is not because of the child's behavior, it's because of the mother's unrealistic expectations. In reality, the more we let go of our expectations, the more freedom we experience in our relationships. When you stop expecting people to behave a certain way, you start to accept them as they are. You embrace their flaws, their quirks, and their imperfections. Rather than becoming angry when they disappoint you, you become compassionate. You understand that they are doing the best they can with the tools and knowledge they have at the moment. This acceptance doesn't mean that you tolerate abuse or mistreatment. It means that you stop holding people hostage to your own standards and judgments. When you let go of expectations, you stop tying your happiness to someone else's actions. For example, if your spouse forgets your birthday or doesn't show affection in the way you desire, it's easy to feel anger, disappointment, or even resentment. But when you release the expectation that they must meet your emotional needs in a specific way, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional turmoil. You become capable of finding joy within yourself, independent of the actions of others. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean giving up on meaningful relationships or lowering your standards. It means realizing that true peace comes when you stop relying on others to make you feel validated, loved, or appreciated. When you stop expecting others to behave the way you think they should, you are free to accept life as it is, and you gain the power to control your own emotional responses. Anger is often seen as a way to protect ourselves, a way to defend our dignity, or to retaliate against perceived wrongs. We think that by expressing our anger, we are somehow punishing the other person for their actions. However, what we fail to recognize is that anger doesn't hurt the person we are angry with, it hurts us. It is a destructive emotion that poisons our peace, clouds our judgment, and ultimately damages our health and well-being. Imagine you're holding a hot coal in your hand. You're angry and you want to throw it at someone to cause them pain, but the truth is you're the one holding the hot coal. It burns your own hand first. And even though you may eventually throw it at the other person, the damage has already been done to you. The longer you hold on to your anger, the more it harms you. You are the one who suffers emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. Studies have shown that chronic anger is linked to increased stress, high blood pressure, heart disease, and other serious health issues. It is a slow poison that corrodes your body and mind. Consider the story of a man who carried bitterness and anger for many years. He had been wronged in a business deal by a close friend, and he held on to that anger for decades. Every time he thought about it, his blood would boil, his heart would race, and his mind would replay the injustice over and over again. He felt justified in his anger, convinced that by holding on to it, he was protecting himself from further betrayal. But the reality was that the only person harmed by his anger was himself. The betrayal had happened long ago, but he was still living in the emotional fallout, reliving it every day. His anger prevented him from healing, and it consumed his life. The sad irony is that the person who wronged him likely moved on long ago, unaffected by the bitterness that continued to eat away at his soul. In the same way, when we hold on to anger, we are allowing the other person to continue to control us while they go on with their lives, free from the emotional turmoil we impose upon ourselves. Letting go of anger is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It takes immense courage to forgive and to release the hold that anger has over you. When you do, you free yourself from the chains that bind you to the past. You gain the emotional freedom to move forward, to embrace peace, and to live in harmony with yourself and others. Think of the remarkable example set by Nelson Mandela. After being imprisoned for 27 years, he chose to forgive those who had wronged him. He knew that holding on to anger would only destroy his soul and perpetuate the cycle of hatred and division. By choosing forgiveness, he freed himself and became a beacon of hope for millions. His life is a testament to the power of letting go of anger and choosing a path of peace, even in the face of unimaginable adversity. Recognizing that anger hurts you, not the person you're angry with, is a transformative realization. Once you understand this, You realize that holding on to resentment or anger is like choosing to keep an open wound. It doesn't heal until you stop picking at it. Forgiveness is the balm that heals your heart and restores your peace. The moment you choose to let go of anger, you reclaim your power. You take back control of your emotional state and free yourself to live a life of joy, clarity, and unshakable peace. Forgiveness is not an act of kindness toward others. It is an act of self-liberation. Too often we carry the weight of past wrongs, real or perceived, on our shoulders, believing that holding on to anger or resentment somehow makes us stronger or justifies our pain. But the truth is, unforgiveness is the heaviest burden you can carry. It is a chain that binds you to the past, holding you hostage to emotions and experiences that no longer serve you. In order to live free, you must practice the art of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean excusing hurtful behavior, nor does it mean allowing people to walk over you. Forgiveness is about releasing the control that those past events or people have over your emotions. When you forgive, you free yourself from the emotional grip that the past has on your present and future. Consider the story of a woman who was betrayed by her closest friend. For years, this betrayal consumed her. Every time she thought about it, the anger and hurt would rise to the surface. She avoided her friend, and when they did have to interact, there was an underlying tension, a wall of bitterness that kept them from truly connecting. She thought that holding on to her anger was a form of justice, that by withholding forgiveness, she was punishing her friend for what had been done to her. But in reality, the only person who suffered was her. She couldn't move forward in her life, couldn't experience new joys or deeper connections because she was bound to the betrayal. One day, this woman had a revelation. She realized that her friend had already moved on, probably with no idea of the emotional burden she had carried all these years. The longer she held on to her anger, the more she allowed that past betrayal to steal her present happiness. She chose to forgive, not because her friend deserved it, but because she deserved peace. In that moment, she felt a weight lift from her chest. The walls she had built around her heart began to crumble, and she felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. The power of forgiveness had set her free. Forgiveness is not easy. It requires vulnerability. It demands that you let go of your pride, your desire to be right, and your need for the other person to acknowledge their wrongdoing. But it is through forgiveness that we reclaim our inner peace. The act of letting go of past hurts is an expression of strength, not weakness. It is the most powerful thing you can do for your own well-being. The story of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, provides a profound lesson in forgiveness. Despite enduring unimaginable suffering in concentration camps, Frankl wrote that forgiveness was a choice he made every day. He understood that no one could take away his peace unless he allowed them to. His decision to forgive wasn't about excusing the actions of his captors, but about maintaining control over his own emotional state, refusing to allow hatred or resentment to define his life. The power of forgiveness became his lifeline, and it allowed him to emerge from the darkness of the Holocaust with a heart capable of love and compassion. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. When you forgive, you are giving yourself the gift of emotional freedom. You're letting go of the burden that no longer serves you. When you choose to forgive, you stop reliving the pain of the past and you create space for healing, for joy, and for growth. It is one of the most powerful acts of self-care and self-love that you can offer yourself. One of the most powerful ways to stop getting angry or bothered by others is to change the way you perceive them and the situations you find yourself in. Perspective is everything. Our emotions are often driven by how we view the world and how we interpret the actions of others. When we choose to reframe a situation, we take back our power because our perception of the world shapes how we experience it. The simple act of shifting your perspective can dramatically change your emotional response to life's challenges. Let's consider a scenario many of us can relate to. Being criticized at work. Perhaps a colleague or supervisor points out a mistake you made, and you immediately feel defensive. You might interpret this as a personal attack, feeling that your abilities or worth are being judged. Your first instinct might be to get angry or frustrated with the person delivering the feedback. But what if you could reframe this situation? Instead of seeing criticism as an assault on your character, what if you viewed it as an opportunity for growth? What if you chose to see it as a way to learn and improve? Reframing allows us to turn every challenge into a stepping stone. Instead of seeing difficulties as problems, we begin to see them as opportunities for learning and growth. Instead of seeing others' actions as an offense to our dignity, we start to see them as an opportunity to practice patience, understanding, and empathy. This shift in mindset is a choice. It is about deciding that your peace is more important than being right or holding on to grudges. There's a story of a man who found himself constantly frustrated by the behavior of his teenage daughter. She would leave her things lying around, argue with him over trivial matters, and challenge his authority. At first, he reacted with anger and frustration, thinking that she was disrespecting him. He couldn't understand why she was so difficult, but one day he chose to look at the situation differently. Instead of viewing her actions as an attack on his authority, he reframed them as a sign of her growing independence and developing sense of self. This perspective shift allowed him to engage with her in a more constructive way. Instead of fighting her at every turn, he started to see her challenges as opportunities to guide her and help her navigate this stage of life. By changing his perspective, he no longer felt the need to control her behavior. He learned to let go of expectations and focus on the deeper connection they shared, which was rooted in love and mutual respect. This shift not only improved his relationship with his daughter, but also freed him from the constant cycle of anger and frustration. Reframing can also be applied in everyday interactions. Consider a time when someone cuts you off in traffic. Your initial response might be anger, but what if you chose to view the situation differently? Instead of assuming the other driver is rude or inconsiderate, you could think, perhaps they're in a rush or dealing with something stressful. By reframing the situation, you release yourself from the emotional grip of anger and allow yourself to move forward with a calmer mindset. The power of reframing lies in its ability to help us see the bigger picture. When we look beyond the immediate frustration, we begin to realize that our emotional reactions are often based on limited, narrow perspectives. By broadening our view, we can see that every challenge, every mistake, every frustration is a part of life's journey, a chance for us to grow, learn, and improve. When you adopt this mindset, you are no longer a victim to your emotions or to the actions of others. Instead, you become a conscious creator of your experiences, choosing how you interpret the world around you. When you reframe your perspective, you take control of your emotional state. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding with intention, clarity, and peace. Reframing your perspective is a powerful tool for emotional mastery. It allows you to let go of the little things that used to bother you and to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your peace, and your ability to navigate life with grace and understanding. When you choose to see the world through a lens of empathy, opportunity, and growth, you unlock a deeper level of peace and emotional freedom. I want to leave you with one powerful truth. You have the power to control your emotional state. Anger, frustration, and irritation are not inevitable reactions to the actions of others. These emotions are choices that can be changed, transformed, and ultimately healed. Remember, no one can make you angry unless you allow them to. Your emotional responses come from within. And when you take responsibility for your own peace, you stop giving others the power to dictate how you feel. It's not about what happens to you, it's about how you choose to respond. Letting go of expectations allows you to free yourself from the shackles of disappointment. Life doesn't always go the way we plan, and people certainly won't always act the way we hope. But when we release the need to control others, we open ourselves to a life of acceptance, understanding, and inner peace. Forgiveness is the ultimate act of self-care. When you forgive, you stop carrying the weight of past hurts. You let go of the past, not for the other person's sake, but for your own. You give yourself the gift of freedom and emotional well-being. The act of forgiveness is not for the weak, it is for the strong. For those who recognize that peace is a higher priority than holding on to resentment. And finally, by shifting your perspective, you shift the very lens through which you see the world. You have the power to see every challenge, every setback, and every confrontation as an opportunity for growth. The more you practice reframing your experiences, the more you will see your life filled with gratitude and possibility rather than frustration and anger. In the end, the power to live a peaceful, fulfilled life lies in your hands. You are the creator of your emotional reality. No one else has that power unless you give it to them. Choose peace. Choose love. Choose to respond with grace, understanding, and wisdom. And in doing so, you will not only transform your relationships, but more importantly, you will transform your life. Thank you.